Welcome to the Mind Vine podcast, where we challenge the stigma associated with mental illness through conversations about a variety of issues impacting mental health. Here we bring you news, views, and interviews that intrigue, educate, and celebrate recovery. Leading us on this journey are the hosts of the Mind Vine podcast, Daryl Mathers and Chris Bovey.
Welcome to the Mind Vine podcast. My name is Daryl Mathers, and this is my co-host, Chris Bovey. And we are at the Mental Health for All conference here in Toronto, which is being hosted by CMHA. And we have yet another kind of unique topic today. It's kind of interesting, the kind of things we've done since we've been here. We just had a breakdancer on earlier. We've talked to somebody about music and bets and guitars. And today we're going to talk a bit about movies and movie making. And we have a guest with us, Natalie Daly from Art with Impact Canada. So welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So can you tell us a little bit, I know you're presenting a little later on today, but a little bit about what you're presenting on and your organization.
Yeah, of course. So Art with Impact, as an organization, we create spaces for young people specifically to learn and connect through creativity and media. So today I'm presenting films from our interactive film library, talking about the value of kind of non-linear methods of learning when it comes to mental health awareness, when it comes to prevention and early intervention, and showing some of our films to give people kind of authentic art experiences and talk about ways that they can maybe incorporate that in their own contexts and their own environments as it relates to mental health awareness and interventions.
Great. And it's great because it can be such a great expression, and now more than ever, kids have access to technology, right? You don't have to be Spielberg to make a film and something really amazing. And kids are doing that all the time now. So do you find, what's been the uptake from some of the, teenager years or younger filmmakers?
Well, just to give you some context, I've been with the organization since late 2014, and we have been running this film competition since actually as early as 2012. So when I first came on board in late 2014, we would see maybe 8 submissions per month, 10 submissions, and we have to have at least 12 each month to jury them. So we would push some film submissions back to the next month and combine the two. Now we see anywhere from 20 to 30 films submitted each month that we jury from. I would say on average like 25. And a lot of them are young people just shooting on iPhones. It's a really accessible way. There's lots of free programs. One of our high school programs that we run specifically goes into high schools and gives them the task of writing, editing, directing, and filming a film on iMovie through an iPad. And they have like 2 hours to do it at the most. And they create these really beautiful pieces. So it is a really growing niche, I think, and a way to really deepen understanding and awareness to a whole other level.
So is there a content criteria when they're doing these that they have to stay in within certain subjects, or what's the criteria around creating a film?
We leave it pretty broad, really. They have to be under 5 minutes and produced in the last 24 months, but otherwise they just have to touch on mental health, mental wellness. We have a lot that speak to specific experiences with different illnesses, and ones that are really misunderstood, like severe OCD or borderline personality disorder, which is great because they can show nuances that we could really never get elsewhere. But we leave it really open so that every month we have a pool of tons of different subjects, tons of different filmmaking styles. We have some that have been like stop motion animation, some that have, our most recent winner was made out of 6,000 drawings. Compiled together for a 5-minute film. So we don't put any parameters on that process.
That's great.
How emotional is it to watch these videos? Because I imagine a lot of them, they're bearing their soul, they're telling stories. It's from lived experience. Yeah.
We actually have viewing guidelines that we've created in the last year so that if people are at home and watching the films in the collection, because there's 39, so if you were to sit down and comb through them, it would be a pretty heavy experience. So we've built this set of guidelines so that people can really take care of themselves when they're watching them. One thing I'm going to talk about this afternoon in my presentation is, showing a couple films, but also touching on films that have really impacted me personally. And I work with, hundreds of college students across the country, and I do this for a living. And when I see a new winning film, it still like really gets me to my core. And I go and visit campuses throughout the year, and I watch the films over and over again. But regardless of the setting, regardless of the new group of students you're in, feedback is always different and the context is always different. So it's a really impactful experience, I think, regardless where it takes place.
And film is so powerful, and it'd be great. I'm going to advocate on your behalf, but it'd be nice. We see so many films come out from people that don't understand, and often young people, that's their first connection to mental health, right? And perception's reality, and they see violent, horrible, movies that don't accurately display mental illness. Is there any interest in trying to get Hollywood to understand what you do and sort of see these things to give directors more context to real life filmmaking? Yeah,
I think that's a huge avenue that we as individuals, like in taking media, we need to be mindful of and be advocating for. My director actually has said, like, the media provides us with images and messages, and it's up to us to decode those. So same with mental health and how that's expressed in mainstream media. At every Movies for Mental Health we do on a college campus, actually one of the first questions we ask is, what are films that you've seen that have mental illness represented in them, and how are those characters portrayed, and what are some adjectives that we receive on a societal level that help shape what we know about mental illness, and how does that impact stereotypes and stigma and our comfort level discussing the issues? We see a lot of, even in mainstream media, like news coverage, seeing individuals with mental illness as the perpetrator rather than the victim. And so I think it's an ongoing responsibility for all of us to be mindful of that and be willing to kind of be open-minded and explore more.
Right.
You are seeing a shift in those like Hollywood movies, for lack of a better term. You are seeing films that are kind of true to the mental health experience. I mean, more so than obviously the 5-10 years ago. It seems like it's an area that some directors want to explore.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as society gets more comfortable talking about it, we're seeing better representations. Like This Is Us, for example, they portrayed a male experiencing a really panic attack last year. And like Shameless has so many mental health themes and like concurrent disorders even. So I think it's a really powerful thing.
There's a show on Netflix called Atypical about a boy with autism. I know it's a little different, but it's pretty accurate. And you're seeing, a couple of them are escaping me now, but you are seeing them. There was one with Kate Winslet a couple of years ago that spoke about depression. And when you see that portrayal, I don't know, as somebody who works in mental health, it's like refreshing. It's as terrible as that may sound, because you see so many times it glossed over, or you see the Jack Nicholson in the insane asylum.
Right,
you see those images, and then when you finally see somebody take the time to portray it accurately in the field, it feels like refreshing.
It's changing. I mean, the one thing I struggle with, I think kids can separate. There's those sort of horrible slasher type movies, and I think they can separate. It's when the movies they think are reality. When I think of Split, for example, and I see comments of people saying, well, that's what it's like, and it's like, no, it's not. And that's when I really worry, when people watch something and think that's an accurate portrayal, and it's not, and where some of the movies are just so fantastical, they can separate fiction from reality.
Right. I actually, on the way here, was reading an article about Bojack Horseman. It's a Netflix animated show, and people are just coming out and writing and saying how grateful they are for that show to not be having any cookie cutter portrayal of depression, of that being isolating and the negative self-talk. And so it definitely, regardless of the portrayal and how accurate it is, it's a starting place for discussion, I think.
Right. What about, so if a young person submits a film, do they have an avenue? I'm just trying to imagine if somebody sort of bears their soul, maybe once it's out there, they've done this, that maybe they need a little bit of support. Are you able to direct them to the right resources as well to support young filmmakers that are sharing their story?
Yeah, we remain connected with a lot of the filmmakers. We have a couple different programs for youth as ways that they can stay involved. So becoming an Art with Impact ambassador, where they can join a Facebook group of students who have attended our events, who have made films, who are sharing resources with one another and creative opportunities with one another. But some instances I know of filmmakers, specifically in our collection, making the film was actually like their first step to really getting the help, or in the process of making the film, they navigated that along the way. One filmmaker specifically made a film about bipolar disorder, and it was like really heart-wrenching and beautiful, and it was his first time ever putting that out into the world, and it was his first time telling a lot of his friends and family, and he just said it was such a relief to have finally had that platform and given the opportunity to really accurately like take ownership over his own messages.
Right. And that's what's amazing about something like this, because you see sometimes young people and they want to disclose and they want to talk about it, but sometimes doors shut. So I don't want to throw people under the bus, but sometimes it's a parent might dismiss it. Well, you're just teenage moody behavior, and if they feel like they don't have an avenue with a parent or an adult, this is a great way for them. Like, I have access to I share my story, and it's a way for them to start this journey.
Or for them to watch and just feel validation for what they've been going through.
Right.
I mean, a lot of our films don't have happy endings because they're not PSAs, and they're really meant to get at the fact that it's not fun to live with mental illness a lot of the time. So we don't shy away from talking about that, and I think they have that kind of silent validation when they watch a film and see that they're not alone in that. I think that speaks volumes.
Yes.
Well, that all sounds great. If people want to learn more about your organization, how do they get in touch with you?
So we're at artwithimpact.org. All of our films that have won are actually there, so I would encourage you, if you're watching them, to maybe take a look at the guidelines before. You can filter by theme, but they're all there, as well as details about how to submit to our film competition. On Twitter and Instagram, we're at artwithimpact. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm just Natalie at artwithimpact.org.
Nice.
Well, great.
That's
Well,
a
thank you very
program.
much for joining
Thanks
us.
so
It was
much.
kind of
Appreciate
fun to
it.
talk movies and mental health. So thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Very good.
Begins and ends with